Hello and welcome. Thank you very much for being here, joining us at this technical session on AWS, GenAI offering, Generative AI offerings, and as we call it, from zero to hero. We will see some very basic tools, some very easy to use tools to get started with GenAI on AWS, and then we will see some more advanced ways to fine-tune, train models on AWS. First of all, a quick introduction from my side. I'm Nikiforos Gotis, Solutions Architect, working with public sector customers in Greece, Cyprus, and Malta, so based out of the local Greek office in Athens. And I'm joined with Socrates.
Hello everyone, Socrates Kartakis. I'm driving the largest MLOps engagements across EMEA, and I show to the customers how to productionize generative AI and machine learning. More or less for generative AI side, 10 customers in the world, they're trying to do that properly. So happy to help you here and to show you the deepest part of this demo. We're trying to not to have a video recording of our demo. Everything will be live. We hope that the Wi-Fi will be OK and we're not going to have internet issues. So get ready for this.
And as our CTO says, everything fails all the time. So if you have any failure, if anything doesn't work, you know why is that, and we please for your patience.
We can auto-scale, so we never fail.
And that's why we are doing different availability zones. OK, great. So we'll start with a very few slides just to set the context. If any of you was at the previous presentation by Socrates, finished just half an hour ago, this will be, let's say, the continuation, the more technical part of the theoretical side shared by Socrates, or not so theoretical. He shared some technical elements as well. But even if you didn't go there, you will set a bit the scene to get started. First of all, a little bit about the agenda, right? So what we'll see in a bit more detail. We'll have a look at Amazon Q, our generative AI-powered assistant, and the different flavors of it, in which context you can use it. Then we will see Amazon Bedrock, the service of AWS, went live last year that makes available some very popular foundation models for text, for image, and how this looks like in the console. And then Socrates will take the stage and walk us through some SageMaker, the end-to-end machine learning service on AWS, and how we can do generative AI with it.
That is a mystery, as we can see.
Exactly. We haven't specified the features of it. But before we get deeper with those services, let's have a look at the machine learning stack, at the generative AI stack. So in the past, we used to call it machine learning stack on AWS. Now, with the offerings that have emerged in light of the GenAI emergence and different technologies, these are the services that are available through the AWS console. And you can see that we tend to classify them in different categories, in different pillars, based on actually the audience and the functionality and how easy it is for a developer, for someone who doesn't have an idea about what it takes to train and fine-tune an FM, to deploy it at a cluster that they own. But also for a researcher, for an engineer that wants to be on top of everything, right? So we see that we cover, it's pretty much the same as the traditional machine learning stack on AWS. We see that Amazon Q and its different flavors are at the top of the stack, meaning that we don't need to have any machine learning, any generative AI experience or knowledge in order to use those tools, and we will see how easy it is to do it in action, either for helping us with building on AWS, connecting it with our data sources, and getting some interesting output from that. Then we see, at the mid layer, we see Amazon Bedrock. As I said earlier, this allows for API access to some popular foundation models, from Amazon's own, the Titan, to Llama, from Meta, to Anthropic's Claude, and others. So we will also see in action how this looks like, either at the playground, just sending text and see the output we receive, or connecting it with our own data and other environments. And lastly, we see the lower tier. This one is mostly addressed for researchers, for ML practitioners, as we call them, people who want to be on top of the training process, want to be on top of the inference process. They want to deploy models and the foundation models on infrastructure. So this is where we offer a large variety of GPUs, either from NVIDIA, from AMD, our own chips that we create, Amazon Trainium and Inferentia for training and inference of generative AI models in general that offer some cost-performance ratio improvements. So we will not be focusing a lot at this layer for today, although SageMaker, which is there, can allow us to do things more in practice and have our expertise applied on that. A very quick intro to Amazon Q. This will be the first service that we will see in the console. So straight after the slides, we will turn into the laptop and it will be a live demo, as we said at the beginning. So Amazon Q actually went live very recently, last re:Invent in November last year. And as the slide suggests, it's an assistant that can help us execute things at the context of our company, at our business or organization, as standalone developers or ML business practitioners, whatever the role. And that's why there are different areas of expertise, different flavors that this service offers. We will not be seeing everything today because, of course, we don't have a lot of time for everything, but we will see the your business. So how can we make this helper, this assistant, relative for our data as well, for our business context as well. For example, crawling some websites or pointing it to our own data set on Amazon S3, for example, so that it can produce relevant results to our own data. And we will also be seeing the flavor of building on AWS. How many times when we are building at a cloud console in a programming language, we have a question we would like to phrase with physical language and get actionable advice, ideally solve our problem with an assistant. And this is exactly what this flavor of Amazon Q is aiming to do. And as we can see, there are also connections with other AWS services, Amazon QuickSight for visualization, Amazon Connect for contact center, and other more industry vertical services, where, for example, for QuickSight, we can ask a question in natural language, and we can see some visualizations created off the back of our question. So these are the integrations with other AWS services. But let's now turn to the laptop, to the screen share, so that we see a bit the AWS console and these services at the console.
Let's make it happen, because we have less than 40 minutes to fine-tune a model.
So just a quick show of hands, who of you has logged into the AWS console even one time, have seen this? Okay, great, perfect. So we'll make sure that everyone can follow, doesn't have to be an AWS expert, and hopefully learn some new things for the ones who have already been using AWS. So that's the first thing that you see after you log into the console, right? I was as a user, as an IAM user, as we say, and through this we can access the 200 plus AWS services that are available. An important pointer is this.
Zoom in.
Yeah, maybe I have to zoom in. So here we can see the regions, right? And this is very important because this is actually the geographical locations supported where AWS has built its infrastructure, its global infrastructure. So whenever we want to deploy something, whenever we want to play around with a service, we first of all have to make sure it's supported at the region that we are in, or change region, and then every time use this region to scale out our infrastructure. So we use Northern Virginia in the US, where all services are available. And we enter Amazon Q. This is the service as I just described, the assistant. And we see that we have already created an application. We will now see what an application is. So the only thing that I did before this session to set it up is to give it a name, AWS Block Expert, for example. And then the most important thing, because this is the flavor, your business expert, so it has to be related to our business. For example, we want to have access to all AWS posts and launch announcements and ask questions so that we can receive answers based on that. So we can see that this data source we have created on Amazon Q is actually, it's based on this source URL, right? So it's the blog post category of AWS, and actually from a specific colleague of ours, Anje Barth. So we can see here that I only gave this URL. I can give a more generic URL, a more specific one, or even subdomain, so it's pretty flexible. And she has been writing quite a few blog posts, and she has even older. This is the only input I gave to Amazon Q as a data source. It took its time to crawl the website, to index the data source, and then what I can do is go to my application and preview the web experience. So how does it look like in action? Of course, this is not the only way, or actually it's not the main way to access Q. We can import it to our own website, to our internal application, but it's by far the easiest way to do that. Okay, so it greets us with this message. We can customize the message it greets a new customer. And for example, having indexed the data source, the material, we can ask this question. So summarize the key insights on a compelling social media post and some other information about what we want to see. What is interesting here is that we want to encourage readers to click through and read the full articles, but also to include some relevant hashtags so that we maximize the reach, the visibility. And actually, we can run it again. This is saved because I ran it earlier. Depending on the internet connection, it might take a while, but we can see that this is the output, right? So this was produced based on the content we gave it, and we can see now it's working on it again, but it produced this message. So it has this question at the beginning. It has some hashtags of AWS, for example, and someone can take it and post it on social media based on, let's say, I think it answered again, based on the contents of the input I gave. Another thing we can ask is, for example, the latest blog post in February that she wrote is about the availability of knowledge bases for Amazon Bedrock. This is a feature of Amazon Bedrock during reInvent 2023. So something we can ask, and sorry for some. Okay, so we can ask when we announced, for example, the availability of this feature. Let's see how. Oh. It always happens, logging us out, we have to log back in. So, okay, just for speed purposes, I might skip that. We can do it later. Now we just re-log in. After a while, I think we can go back to the laptop. Thank you. And that's one way to use Amazon Q. Another way to use it, and this is the second flavor that I wanted to show, is when we are at a, let's say, documentation page of AWS, right? Any public page of AWS looking for a specific service, a specific feature, trying to understand what an API does. And then we have this helper open. We can refresh it to see exactly how it looks. This is just a random, it doesn't have to be about Q, any service. And then we can click on the button at the right-hand side, and then Amazon Q comes up. And if we have logged into our account, this is the way that we actually enable Amazon Q. We can see as a pop-up window, as a helper, it suggests some prompts, but of course these are only example prompts. We might have specific problems to solve. And we can, for example, ask, why can we SSH to my EC2 instance? A very typical problem when we set up a VM, we haven't opened the security group or a firewall or something else. So we can get some advice from the service based on the documentation. And I think the most interesting thing is not only what we get. Oops. Okay, that's interesting. I think let's redo it. So sometimes it returns errors because it either we haven't logged in with an account or maybe the connection, but usually it comes back with some pointers, ABC, 1, 2, 3, as it happened just now, some possible cases why this didn't happen, and also, I think this is most important, the sources, right? So what are some sources I can go and check out further? And it's not only about the documentation pages, it might be some questions by other customers, other users, or other AWS sources. We can also try and do other things, for example, also related to accessing. What's the best way to debug the reason why I can't access my EC2 instance from the public internet? Also a very classic use case. I have an instance, but it cannot be accessed by the public internet. I have forgot to add an internet gateway, as we call it. So here it also provides me with some advice on how to go and check. Another very typical question, and the last one is, for example, I want to use a VM powered by NVIDIA 800 GPU, and I want to know in which regions this EC2 is available. We know that not all EC2s are by default available at all regions. So I could ask a question like this. and it comes back with the list of regions that is available, and more things, right? So can help us save time in things that we do. Okay, previously I ran it and it said 1, 2, 3, so of course, always with a grain of salt, maybe we want to have a double check or rerun it, but that's the gist, and of course it's getting better as we go, and based on the feedback that we can give here. Great. Okay, so this is Q, right? Amazon Q. We saw 2 flavors out of the 5, 6, and more that are being added. Now, the next one to show, and we will not show the slides just to accelerate a little bit, is Amazon Bedrock. And Amazon Bedrock, we'll see now the landing page of it. So Socrates also at his talk mentioned some FMs, foundation models that are powered, that are supported. We can see here some of them. We very recently, last week actually announced support of Mistral models as well. This is very new. And what we can do here, other than checking out which are the providers, we can go and request model access. So if we actually want to test out a model, and the nice thing with Bedrock is that we don't have to care at all about deploying the models at an instance, right? At a high-spec instance. It's done behind the scenes. It's what we call serverless, so we don't have to care about the servers it's running for inference, for example. The only thing that we have to do is request access to the model we want to test. In our case, we will be testing Claude. Claude is Anthropic's FM, and we'll check the version 2 of it. And also, we will also be checking a little bit of Llama, but also Stability AI. Stability AI is this model is for stable diffusion, so from text to image. And we have a playground. I think this is quite interesting to check out. The ones that we have whitelisted, the ones that we have allowed access, we can find them here, and we can give them some prompts and see what they reply, right? An interesting parameter to increase. Of course, we always have to take cost into consideration, but for the purpose of this demo, we're expecting quite of a wordy answer, so I increase the length of the answer that we allow. So I want to ask, actually in Greek, because it also supports Greek, what are the priorities, what should be the priorities of Greece in 2024, right, as per the model's knowledge. And we can give this and wait for a little bit. It will start populating, as we see. So it gives some suggestions.
Are you going to give that to the minister?
Maybe we can. Depends. We can ask for a specific every single ministry. The interesting thing is that we can control some of the parameters as well, right? We can the temperature, the randomness we infuse into the model, also like how many, as I said earlier, the input, the output parameters, and of course we can see some model metrics as well. Of course, this is not how Bedrock is meant to be used in production. This is only a way to see what its model is capable of doing, which languages does it support, how we can interact with it, etc. And also some more generic questions, maybe what is the way to enter Greek university, and it gives all the ways this is done. Why? If I had left the maximum length to 100, then it would stop at the first 100 characters. That's why I increased it.
Let's change that.
The 100, yeah, we can change.
Yes, 50.
But let's also have a go at an English prompt. When it finishes, I think, yeah, it might take a while. So it also has the exceptions, right?
If you feel alone, you can use that, right?
So this is the chat function. As you see, there is also text and image. Okay, it's finished. Let's go now smaller. Maybe we can do, yeah, 74. How can I sell my products on Amazon.com? And now it starts answering, but then it stops in a while. Oop, yeah, it has more, but because we kind of limited the output, so it doesn't proceed further, right? So that's how we can interact with an FM that is supported through Amazon Bedrock. In this case, it's Anthropic's Claude. Then we can go and see the text, right? Text playground, I think this is an interesting one. It actually has a pre-populated prompt for Llama, the 13 billion version. So we can see here that we tell the bot, I went to the market and bought 10 apples, I gave 2 apples to your friend and 2 to the helper. I then went and bought 5 more apples and ate 1. How many apples did I remain with? And we also specify that we want to do this step by step. So if we run it, let's give it full. Okay, so it kind of suggests an answer based on the numbers and what we suggested and gets back. So this is a more text way to interact with that, maybe giving it the right prompt. For me, the best one, at least for the purpose of a demo like this and to play a bit around, is this way to test a model based on the stable diffusion text to image. So something that I was also I liked a lot is when we ask for a summertime at the Cycladic island of Santorini, an image that resembles that or is something relevant, and we will be seeing something like that. Of course, we can give some reference images so that we can be based on those. Again, other parameters. We can also, I think this was funny, Amazon package delivered to a boat entering the port. It's not exactly that, but at least when I tried it, it's something quite interesting. And of course, this can be used for our logos, for our different graphic needs and whatever else we want to engage our audience with. So this is also can be tested through Bedrock and can be actually used in production through Bedrock. But of course, someone can say, okay, this is generic, this is maybe good, maybe not so good, but of course I might want to fine-tune based on my own data, or I want to connect with my business data so that what it replies, it's not only the generic knowledge it has, but it also is related to my needs. That's why there are some features. Socrates, at his talk earlier, mentioned them. It's agents for Bedrock, knowledge bases for Bedrock, so connecting with our own data, or giving it a prompt, and we have an example of an agent.
Nikiforos, one note here, right? Here we saw what you can do via UI. Whatever you can see via UI, you can do that through APIs as well, right? Don't think that it is a UI and you need to use that, etc. You can use the whole functionality through code.
Yeah, and as with everything at AWS, the console is probably the easiest to get started because everything is graphical, but behind the scenes, everything is translated to an API call. And it's exactly the same as you do it with a CLI, command line interface, or the SDK, the software development kit. Okay, good. So I am again at the Bedrock's console. I didn't change anything. I just went to another feature other than testing out the playground of foundation models. And here it's agents, right? I have named an agent called retail agent, and I have given it a draft, a description of what we want it to do, which is helping customers purchase shoes. Retrieve customer details like customer ID and preferred activity based on the name, then check the inventory for shoe best fit. So of course, this requires also some data that we have given. If any of you is familiar with infrastructure as code, in AWS we have a service CloudFormation. There are also Terraform is pretty popular. We have developed a stack with CloudFormation, which actually results to the creation of an Amazon S3 bucket, Amazon Bedrock, but also like a little database also hosted on S3, having information about customers. I can actually, here this is the database that we have given to this application. So for example, this is a list of our customers, making it more relevant to our customers. Of course, it could also be a SQL database hosted on Amazon RDS or any other data source, right? It doesn't have to be a very small file like here, just for testing purposes. And after having created this agent, so given it this, have a version, create an alias, that's the only necessary step, and then we can start testing it, right, based on what we have already explained. So we go here and we say this. Hello, I'm looking for shoes. It will take a little while.
Show trace.
But we'll show the trace as well. So the trace is actually the reasoning behind it, the way that it took our input, it translated in its own terms, and how it reasoned about. Okay, so could you please provide your name so I can retrieve your customer details, right? We can see here the trace. I think the most interesting parameter is the reasoning. Wait. Okay, the rationale. So the input from the user seems to be a general question about looking for shoes. It does not appear malicious or trying to manipulate my behavior. Since it is a general question about shoes, I will categorize it as a question that can potentially be answered by the function calling agent using the provided functions. So of course, we need some compute in order to execute, especially when we need to do database lookups or return any sort of information, execute an order, and we will show how we have implemented with a Lambda function also created through the CloudFormation stack. Okay, so it asked me to provide my full name. My full name is Jane Smith. We see that it's part of the table. And again. So for Jane Smith, actually, we know that she likes day hikes, right? This is the info we have. And so again, the rationale, it hasn't gotten back to us yet. The user has provided their full name in response to my previous question asking for their name to retrieve their customer details. This input is not malicious, and we keep talking about malicious because also, as Socrates said, we have guardrails and other ways to protect the way that the prompts are, what prompts we allow, how to detect language that is not, that is offensive or anything else. So these are things we can control. Okay, so Jane, based on your preference, we have some sort of recommendations, right? So we see some shoes that are suggested based on the database we have of shoes with some IDs. And then the question is, which shoe would you like to order? Please provide the shoe ID number.
And by the way, this is hiking boots mostly, right?
Yeah.
So as he prefers. Good.
Okay, this is the next one. Place an order for shoe ID 5. We see that it's the waterproof hiking boots. Same process, we actually want to, and at the same time as this works its way to getting us the order number, we will see that actually all of this is based on one or more Lambda functions. For those of you who are not familiar with serverless, for AWS Lambda is the serverless compute service. So we can actually define our logic, our code through Lambda functions that work together, maybe orchestrated by an orchestrator, for example, AWS step functions, without needing to care about or to set up servers, VMs, in order for them to run, right? They run when they tell them to run. So here we can see, we'll not go deep at the code, but we have load data, return customer info, so there is actually code that is run there and it's triggered by the prompts and by Amazon Bedrock. We see I have successfully placed an order for shoe 5. The order number is 1, please let me know, etc. We can go on and on. We can ask for which shoe did I just place an order for, meaning that it keeps having this sort of internal knowledge and database lookups, or how many stock items do you have for order number 5 or shoe ID 5. But this is a way to very easily tailor Bedrock to not only use generic prompts and answers, but become relevant for our own needs. So I think, Socrates, we have covered a lot.
I have 50 minutes to train the model, right?
Great. So let's now log out of this account and then let you.
Let's go to the card. Perfect. So I asked Nikiforos to use another account for my demo because I wanted to show you how it looks like by having a team working on SageMaker. Not just a clean account, you know, that looks beautiful, etc., but how it looks like from a real perspective. So either I can type SageMaker here, SageMaker. It is first, perfect. So SageMaker is the environment of the data scientists, right? The ones that they want to go deep and to fine-tune models, to do more crazy things. The first thing, in order to have SageMaker and to have a platform to be able to write your code, etc., you need to enable SageMaker Studio. SageMaker Studio is the IDE for data scientists on the cloud. And what you need to set up is, first of all, a SageMaker Studio domain that says SageMaker will have access to all these different services that you need. So you can restrict a lot to where you have access. So here I have 2 different domains. Immediately I can see that. And under each domain, I have a different user for a different real person, right? So here you can see my team that we start building a workshop for you. In order to launch the SageMaker Studio, as I said earlier, I need to go here and say Launch Studio. immediately I will see the SageMaker Studio platform and the UI. By the way, you are able to link this with SSO. That means that your data scientists, etc., they don't need to go through the console, do all the clicks that I did, but they can add their own email, password, boom, and they will land to this page. So you know that all of them, they go only to the place that they need to interact and nowhere else. So let me zoom in a little bit, accept all the cookies. OK, what we have here? Here we have the main page in the middle. Here we have different applications, as you can see. All these applications is what the data scientists can use. For example, we support Jupyter Lab, RStudio, most common platforms for data scientists, Code Editor, that is Visual Studio on the cloud, right? Or Studio Classic, that has all the different services that we had since last year. And Canvas, that we can take that another time. And all the main functionality is located here under these tabs. So, for example, from my side, what I have done is I have created different Jupyter Lab apps, as you can see here. All these are different servers that I can stop, open, run, do whatever I prefer. Even to log in, if I go to open one, what will happen is this will send me to a Jupyter Lab server that I'm able to play with. OK, until this is open, because probably the Wi-Fi is slow. See? OK, perfect. Here I have everything. OK, let me return a little bit back to the studio environment. The first thing that we need to do is to find the LLMs, the foundation models. Where are they into this UI? If I go down a little bit, Jumpstart is the way to go. So when I click to Jumpstart, immediately I'm able to see all the different families of foundation models that we give you access. These are more than 730 models that you can see here. So these are open source models, big, small models, depending on your needs. I love Llama 2, but also you can, if I scroll a little bit, you can see from Hugging Face, from Stability, from Cohere, etc. What we can do is I can search for a model, for example, Mistral immediately. I can take that in front of me. Or I can go to a specific family of models, and I am able to filter down based on what is the task that I want to complete. For example, question and answering. For the time being, let me return back to Jumpstart. Let me go to Meta. Let me go to Llama 2 with a space. Boom. And I will select Llama 2. Come on. 70B. OK, we have different types of models, as you can see here. I will select the 70B. So immediately in front of you, what is the key problem that most of the customers have? Is in order to understand all these models, you need to go to all the different pages, understand what is going on, read the documentation, etc. Jumpstart brings all the documentation in a standardized format that you can read. You can understand what is going on with this particular model. If I scroll down, you can see all the different parameters for Llama, for example. You can see what are the requirements of Llama, and all the different details that you can find to their system. Most important for me is to go to understand how I shape a prompt for Llama, right? This is what your data scientist will normally do. If you don't have this information, it is a nightmare to find it, right? So you have everything that you need from a documentation perspective here. But not only that, I have 3 beautiful buttons at the upper right corner. Train, deploy, evaluate. The train is if you want to fine-tune a model. Deploy is to create an instance, as we call it, a server, that we host an LLM, a model. And we can send requests, get answers. Evaluate, you can do evaluation of these models. The evaluation of LLMs are completely different than the evaluation of classic models. Some evaluation might require to check the toxicity, right? That is not a classic machine learning metric. So I will show you now all these 3 functionalities. We're not going to wait for all of them, but I will show you how it looks like. The first thing that it asks you is to accept the terms, the EU LA. If you don't accept that, they don't allow you to click there, because many customers, they accept only specific models to be used. Then you need to give an endpoint name. I will give the standard one. Then it is the instance type, what machine we need to use. Here, it it shows you, Y48 Excel, it shows you what is the instance type, the minimum instance type that you can use to deploy this model. So here I have G548 Excel. Probably I have consumed all the G512 Excel, and these are the only availables in this account. And I need just, after I fill what instance type I need, for example, this one. So SageMaker Jumpstart filters down the type of machines that you can use for the particular model to work perfectly fine. You can do additional configuration, like if you work in a specific VPC, in a specific private cloud, you can set up this. And the only thing that you need to do is to click the button here, Deploy. What will happen is this will start deploying. I don't know if I have access to deploy a 48 Excel. I have access to deploy a 48 Excel. Otherwise, I will get a pop-up saying, error, you don't have the ability to do that, because you need to restrict your data scientists. They are like, kids in the kindergarten. They want to play with big things, even if they don't need it. So you can restrict that. So this will create now my server. It will take 5 minutes to create the instance, deploy the model, and be able to get access to this particular model. If I want to see all the models that I have access, if I go to here, Deployment, Endpoints, I'm able to see that I have 3 different endpoints, right? And for example, in Deployed Endpoint, if I click, I can see the different settings, who has created, when has created, what is this? This is a 2XL instance. And I have this magic test inference. Here in the test inference, I can write my request, my prompt, and I can access directly, the model. It is not like Bedrock that you have all these UI fancy things. It is mostly for data scientists. Don't forget about this. But also it has another selection, and here it shows you what is the code that you need to use in order to interact with this particular model. What you can do is you can copy this code from here. I can go back to my Jupyter lab. I haven't tried that, but I will do that because I want to see if I can fail. So let me see, new, I will open a new notebook. I will paste, yes, I need to select the kernel. I will paste the code here. If I execute, this will work. Actually, now I run this particular notebook that I got it as an example with all the parameters there, and this shows me now how I can interact with a particular model. As you can imagine, this is a great boost for everyone that has no idea how to use a new model in the market. If you are a data scientist, of course, right? If you are now an application developer, go to Bedrock. Okay, so we deploy the model. But what I want to do next is I want to evaluate the model, as I said earlier. Let me turn back to Jumpstart. Let me select the Llama 2 with space 70B or 7B, smaller chat. This is a model that you can use if you want to implement a chat to have a chain of discussion, right? So here I have this evaluate button. If I click on this evaluate button, what the first thing that it asks me is to give a name for this evaluation job that I want to run. So Llama 2 chat eval. Let me add some dashes. I copied this, I paste the description, sorry for the dummy text. And then I have 2 options. Either to select an automatic evaluation, that means that we will run all the algorithms for you and we will produce the results, or you have the human evaluation. You can set up, let's say, an environment for human evaluators to go and check your data and to do the labeling and everything. So you can have your workforce. What it needs is just the emails of the users that you want to involve, and it spreads all the emails to the right people with a link to click, label a dataset. But we will focus on the automatic one. So I have selected the automatic one. This is the model that I want to use. Again, I need to accept the terms and conditions, the EULA of this particular model. And then I can select what is the task that I want to evaluate. Why do you need to select what is the task that you need to evaluate? Because different tasks means different metrics, and this is the way how we provide you the right metrics for your task. So, for example, I need to do a Q&A. Immediately, this will give me access to all the different metrics for a question and answer. This is accuracy. It gives me a pre-built data set if I want to run it, right, based on public data set. I can use my own data set here. It gives me other metrics like toxicity, like semantic robustness. I can remove any metric that I don't like, right? Let's keep these two. Also, what I have done is I have prepared some data. If I go back here, let me zoom in. I have prepared the SciQ data set, and I have uploaded this to S3. I will show you. So, for example, I have this small data set. If I can split that a little bit. And this data set, what it has model input, that is actually what the llama expects, and it has the output, what is the answer, right? So now I can run this and evaluate what is going on. To do that, I need to upload everything into S3. So if I go back to here, to the console, data preprocessing is a big thing, right? It is not easy. We have created scripts to help you with these examples that you can get answers as well. So I have a bucket, the default bucket. I have my data sets. This is the place that I store all the different data sets on the cloud. So here I have a data set inside evaluation, automatic small. For example, I have this particular data set that I showed you earlier. I can copy the URI. I can do whatever I want. Now I have a cheat sheet that is here, and I will get this. I will go back. I will go back to here. I will paste the S3 location, right? You need to select where to export the outcome of this. So let me send the output here. Bam. And then I say in what type of instance I will run this evaluation. Next. Then you get the summary of all your selections, and you create the evaluation job. Now what is happening is this will create in a bit, as you can see here in process, what will happen is it will create a new instance. It will run a new container with all the evaluation algorithms that we have selected, getting the code. It will deploy a model to be able to interact with the model, and it will give the results. The results, they look something like this. So accuracy and toxicity, this is what I ran yesterday night, okay? And you can see the results from there. Whatever you see on the UI, you can do through code as well. And we have released for you an open source library, FMeval, that will give you access to the code of all the algorithms that we provide on this UI, and you can extend, you can use straight away, even if with any other third-party tool you prefer. Now, because we don't have time, and I have just 1 minute, I will show you. Yes, let me search again, and I will forget the two. Llama 2, 7B, chat. I will show you how to fine-tune a model. So, train. Train is when I want to fine-tune a model. Fine-tuning a model, Llama 2 supports LoRa and PEFT and all these kind of things. We can talk offline, right? What we need to provide is a data set that we need to have the training data, enter a data set. If I go back, I have this cheat sheet as well. I will select the data set. OK. I have the high parameters, that these high parameters will be loaded dynamically, depending on the model that you have selected. If I select Mistral, here I will see the high parameters that are related to Mistral only. Now, because it is LoRa, it is Llama 2, we have LoRa here to have the LoRa alpha, all the other parameters, etc. Let's trust that this is OK. Actually, yeah, I'm not going to change that. This here shows me what is the instance type that I need in order to run fine-tuning. And here, SageMaker gives you only the list of the machines that your fine-tuning can be performed. Okay? You cannot use a laptop machine to run fine-tuning. It is impossible. So we will have to have Excel. The team can wait for 2 minutes more. And after this, if I click here, submit, I accept the EULA. What I started is a training job to start fine-tuning the model. This will take now 40 minutes. This is not something that it runs continuously. What will happen is it will start the instance, it will move the data, do the training, return the model, kill the instance, stop paying. So you pay what you use, and you don't pay the whole day for not using that. Okay? So, and lastly, yes, if I go, one last thing that I want to show you is because I don't like UIs, right? I like automation, I like standardization, I like to link the containers together. We can provide to you, we have solutions of how to, all the different operations that I did, to link them in a workflow, in a pipeline with multiple containers to do exactly this. So here, I have an example of a pipeline that we created. Let me see if this is the correct one or not. Nope, this is not the correct one. And this is the last example, hybrid. Let's get this hybrid one. So here, what I created is a pipeline of multiple steps and containers that automates what? Here, this step, you cannot read it. I will tell you what I have is deploy a Llama 2 model. Deploy a Falcon 7B model. Here, fine-tune and then deploy the fine-tune model. And then evaluate all these models separately based on data that I pre-processed for all of them. And select the best model for me. And then register the model to model registry that we can talk another time, and clean up the endpoints in order to stop paying. So with a simple click, right, if I start a new execution of this, it will start doing LLM evaluation at scale for 3 different models and 1 to be fine-tuned. And that's all from my side.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for overrunning a bit. Hope it was useful. So different services, different parts of the stack, for the business users to the very technical, the researchers, the ones who want to be on top. If we can have the last slide, it has a QR, and then we can close it here.
Let's switch to the slides, please. Our slides.
Yeah.
Did you like it? Have you used SageMaker before? At least from my side? Yes? Who? Hans. Okay, we need more people, right? Especially data scientists. Give us credits. Give us use cases and we will do something.
We have a form, that's why we want to show the slide. There is a form, if you want to put your name and email, and we can follow up for exactly this purpose.
Switch, please, to our slides.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, click.
Oh, great.
Go. Up here. So if you have use cases, if you have problems that you want us to help you with, please register those here.